Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show Crosstalk. Well, Peter, today is the 300th podcast of The Gaggle. So congratulations to you, congratulations to Kira, congratulations to our audience. It's been a fine achievement. And what better way to celebrate our 300th anniversary than with our thumbs ups and thumbs downs for the week? I'll go first. My thumbs up is the Georgia State Legislature, which has this week passed a law addressing a number of the deficiencies that we witnessed in November. Chief among them is that, if there are no more mass mail-outs of absentee ballots, you have to specifically apply for an absentee ballot. And when you apply, you have to give your state ID, or your, whatever, with your passport or whatever it is. And you have to do it at least 11 days ahead of the election day, in addition, the drop boxes have to be located not anywhere, next to McDonald's or whatever. They actually have to be located inside the polling places. So you have to actually go in physically and put in your ballot. One other thing is that there's to be no more food and water distribution to people waiting online to vote. If you remember, during the press conference, Biden was talking in this, almost lachrymose way about the poor people who are not being given water. They need water as they wait to vote. Some parched traveler in the desert, water. And so this is how cruel these Republican legislators are. But of course, this is standard practice in many states, which is that you don't give any kinds of gifts, whether it's money, Apple players, or food and water to people waiting online. Because otherwise you will, of course, have all those Zuckerbergs and Bloombergs essentially financing mobile, five-star restaurant cars as a way to induce people to vote. So I think it's perfectly reasonable. No one's stopping you from bringing your own bottled water or your own sandwich. So kudos to the Georgia legislature for.
And let's hope it sets a precedent, because you and I have been very guarded about what happened in November, and I think we both found consensus in that there were just a hell of a lot of ballots out there. Okay,
a hell of a lot of ballots, exactly.
And we can't have that happen again. We can't have it happen again, or else people won't believe in the system. I mean, it's already teetering. They're teetering right now. Now we have to keep a close eye on HR 1, which in my mind is clearly unconstitutional, federalizing the elections. The founders knew that was a really big mistake, and that's why they delegated to the states. So we're keeping a close eye on HR 1 to make sure, hopefully, some judge is going to stand up and do the right thing and say, this is nonsense. You can't do this, okay?
Oh, that's exactly right. I mean, if there's one thing the Constitution of the United States is explicit about, it's about the conduct of elections for president. And it says how the states choose their electors for the electoral college is decided exclusively by the state legislatures, not state officials, not the governor, not the secretary of state, but by the state legislature. That was explicit. That was ignored in 2019 and 2020. And, Supreme Court, as we all know, ducked the issue. They didn't take it. But that's it. And so therefore, this is entirely constitutional, what Georgia is doing, and let's hope other states follow. And whereas what Congress is doing is clearly unconstitutional, because they are usurping the powers of the state legislatures.
Yes, and what they're doing is they're doing it in the name of election integrity, but what they're doing is exactly the opposite, and it is a clarion call for all of us to say, we don't let this happen, because they're unraveling the Constitution or attempting to do that. Okay, if it starts here, it's going to go everywhere else. Okay, my thumbs down. I only have thumbs down now this week. Where is the fact checking? You know, after Biden's depressor, not presser. Where were the media pushing back? No, there was a little bit of quibbling about, you know, numbers at the border, but overall there was no challenging the exaggerations, the misinformation, the disinformation, and in my opinion, I'm sorry, outright lies that are being told here. I mean, if anything approaching that, Trump, they called him on the carpet every single time. Okay, so you know, where's the accountability? I mean, these people, these professional managerial people, they're so out of touch with the rest of the country that they think that, you know, they can just get away with it. If they say it, it's true. If they don't push back, then there's no need for pushback. This is really going in a very bad direction. And you know, one of the things that's happening, George, is that all of the major media outlets, they're going down dramatically. They're all collapsing. People are turning out. Why listen to this nonsense? And that's happening to liberal stations too.
No, that's exactly right. You remember during the Trump years, anything Trump said, like, you know, if he said, I wore a tie at this rally, they would immediately write, oh, another Trump lie. He didn't wear a tie at this rally. So anything that he said that, you know, was an exaggeration, hyperbole, or just simple absent-mindedness, it was a lie. He lied, which, as we know, it's a complete misuse of the word a lie. I mean, a lie means it's something that you know is true, and that you actually say that, you know, tell others, you know, that it's you know, something that's untrue. You know, if it's something just an exaggeration, or you know, if it's a matter of opinion, then it's not a lie. So when Trump says something like, "Oh, Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer who ever lived," that's his opinion. That's not a lie. I mean, if you're saying, "No, it was Jack Nicklaus," I mean, you know, that you know, he's, you know, Trump's lying. No, that's just his opinion.
His unfinished wall at the border, the greatest wall ever made. Well, you know, there's a lot of other walls out there, the Great Wall of China, they have the Israeli barrier, but it's his opinion. He was the superlative president. He was on Laura Ingraham after Joe's depressor, and you know, it was a phoner, and you know, he hasn't changed at all. Everything is the biggest, the greatest, the mostest. Okay. Right. That's just the way he talks. He always just talked that way.
He's always been like that. Exactly. I mean, you know, those of us who remember him back in New York, and he was trying to sell real estate. That's what he does. He's a salesman. So everything is always the greatest, and the most wonderful, the terrific. That's who he is.
Particularly when he's talking about himself.
Particularly when he's talking about himself. Yeah. I remember once he was asked, if you were to grade yourself, you know, while he was president, if you were to grade yourself, what grade would you give yourself? A+. Well,
what did you expect? And you know what, George? Other than the legacy media, everyone had a good chuckle because it wasn't mean-spirited. Right. It's just that's what he's made of. Okay, right. I read, you know, when he would telegraph to his followers about an event or something like that, and the media would, oh, that's uncouth. How can you say such a thing? And no, he knows how to talk to them. That's how they talk.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And that was the key to his success. He, unlike the professional politicians who've been doing this all their lives, could talk to ordinary people in the way that all of the rest of them, all those McConnells and Ted Cruz and Schumer, have absolutely no ability to talk to ordinary people the way people talk.
And not one of them can do it now.
Right. Exactly.
Not one of them. Not one of them.
No, that's right. That's exactly right. But nonetheless, you know, as you said, the fact checkers were stunningly absent. You know, Biden made those comments about the border. We talked about that yesterday. Every single thing he said there was false. He spoke falsely about, you know, Jim Crow and all these legislation about to bring somehow the elections under control. He started talking about Jim Crow and, you know, complete nonsense. No one challenged him. What has any of that got to do with
Jim Eagle? Jim Eagle? Who's
Jim
that?
Eagle, exactly. Yeah, I actually thought this was some kind of a pop cultural reference. That
I didn't know the reference either. I just thought it was like a Bidenism. Okay.
Well, I guess it was.
You're up.
Yeah, so my thumbs down is Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota, who was the heir apparent, the coming thing, the new star on the horizon, the would-be leader of the MAGA movement. Her career collapsed spectacularly this week. As people know, the South Dakota legislature were about to pass a law essentially mandating that girls play on girls' teams, boys play on boys' teams, and that basically it's going to basically biologically determined. It's not determined by your gender identity, but according to your birth certificate, as to whether you're a boy or a girl. She basically, having first said that she would sign the legislation, basically caved and gave all manner of excuses. Wanted to gut the aspect of it which involved athletes suing the colleges, which was actually the enforcement mechanism. So if a girl was kicked out of the team in favor of a boy, that provided the girl with a means to sue, and then she removed the whole reference to collegiate sports. So it would only apply to high school. Well, then she started giving all sorts of excuses and saying that she was absolutely terrified of the NCAA, that they would come, they bullied her. Then she also said that she was being bullied by the conservative cancel culture. But the NCAA has said nothing. So, we don't know whether the NCAA was going to come and what she's saying, they were going to boycott South Dakota. If the NCAA did try that and say, okay, girls from South Dakota cannot take part in NCAA sports, I don't know that they're going to win in court. I mean, she claims, there's no way we can win in court.
Lawyers. I talked to lawyers,
legal scholars. Unnamed legal scholars told her. The truth is, she caved to the woke corporations like Amazon, who've been playing this little game of identity politics for years. They are very anti-worker. They crush unions. They pay nothing for their workers. The conditions of work are horrific. But they pretend that they're on the side of liberals. They're progressive by playing this game. That they're on the side of Black Lives Matter. We're on the side of the trans. We're inside of inclusivity. And she pathetically.
And there's no downside for Bezos to say all this nonsense. Exactly. Really, none at all. You're right. Anti-union, poor wages, poor health care, but they like Black Lives Matter. Exactly. It's just so hypocritical. The thing with the governor, Noem, is that the legislature had her back. Exactly. And then she collapses. And so what does it mean to be a leader, George? To have courage, Yeah, people might push back at you and be mean to you on Twitter, but you're representing the people. That's what the people voted for this kind of stuff.
That's exactly it. Absolutely. That's what you're supposed to be. You are there as their representative. It's a representative democracy. They want this, you sign it. If the powerful corporations then come at you and say, we don't like it, and we're going to coerce you, okay, then you've got a debate on your hands. You say, hey, I represent the people. You don't represent anyone except the most powerful, wealthy people in the country. That's your message.
If she had done the right thing and signed it, she was in a very, very powerful position for 2024. Yeah. I mean, I'm dead serious here. Right. She knew how to check the right boxes, hit the right buttons, very attractive in front of the camera, a sense of authenticity. But when she did her interview on Tucker Carlson, which you and I both know, watched that very carefully. I mean, he could have gone for the jugular, but he was just like, okay. I mean, you don't make any sense, Governor, but we're going to leave it at that.
He just let her hang herself.
He let her hang in the wind.
Exactly. Yeah. That's absolutely right.
All righty. My next thumbs down is that the May 1st deadline for the United States to withdraw its troops from Afghanistan, a deal signed under the Trump administration, and we've already been told by the president that the US will miss that deadline. So that means two things. It becomes Biden's war, and number two, it's open-ended. We're not going to get this opportunity again. I'm sorry, there's another third point here. The way they talk about extending it, moving it back, what about the other signatory of that agreement? Are they going to agree to it? Because mark my words, as early as maybe May 1st or May 2nd, an American soldier will die in Afghanistan at the hands of the Taliban, and Joe Biden, that's on you. You, Mr. President, it is on you.
That's it. That's absolutely right. Here was an opportunity. It was done. It was signed. It was very basic, which is the United States will withdraw unless they are targeted by the Taliban. They set up deadlines as to when they withdraw. The Taliban has kept its side of the bargain. It was not conditional on forming some kind of a coalition government in Kabul. That was up to them to decide. It was not, and had nothing to do with the United States. Once you make American withdrawal condition on an agreement between the Afghan government and the Taliban, that means you're there for another 20 years. The whole idea that Biden said, well, it's not a question of if, but when. We're not going to meet this deadline, but we're going to meet the next deadline. I think that is such nonsense. I mean, that it's never going to happen. I mean, you miss this deadline, that's it, you're done.
It's up to the corrupt, decrepit, anti-democratic government and Kabul and the Taliban to hash it out. Right. We've been there for 20 years. Everything has been tried. Right. It's time to leave. It is nonsense. It's a grift. Right. And it's Biden's war. It's Biden's war, and that's how I'm going to refer to it after May 1st.
That you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's a very good thumbs down. Now, my next thumbs down is Michael Sherwin. Now, not everyone knows who Michael Sherwin is.
I think they do now.
Yeah, they do now. He's the former U.S. attorney for D.C., but he's now the U.S. attorney for Miami. But he was responsible for the prosecuting of the cases against the people who were involved in the events of January the 6th. Sherwin gave an interview last Sunday to CBS's 60 Minutes, in which he made all manner of outrageous statements. I mean, one of which was that Donald Trump himself is under criminal investigation for his possible role in January the 6th. He talked, in a lip-smacking way that already they put forward charges that we'll be sending people to prison for 20 years. And then he said that he's going to be bringing sedition charges against various people who were involved on January the 6th. This is about as serious as you can get. I mean, it's sedition, the plotting to overthrow the government. So this wasn't just some journalist shooting his mouth off. This is a very senior person within the Justice Department. So outrageous was this interview that even an Obama-appointed judge who was presiding over one of the trials that Sherwin had prepared had expressed some astonishment at a prosecutor shooting his mouth off like this. And he said, well, you're kind of tainting a possible jury pool. It's hard to see how they can get a fair trial when a prosecutor is talking in this way. And this person, this Sherwin, and he's very representative of the people who are at the DOJ, they don't seem to have any idea that, if you're working for the Justice Department, you are representing the people. You're not just a party to a lawsuit. You are representing the people. Therefore, your job is to see that justice is done. Your job isn't just to win a case, to send people away for the rest of their lives. Your job is to ensure there's justice. But these people at the DOJ just have no idea that they want to send the people they don't like to prison and let them rot there for the rest of their lives. This is a horrible person.
He made it sound like it's like his personal crusade.
Exactly.
Is, I am going to go down in history as the man that put these people in the slammer. I'm going to go down in history for redefining the word and idea of sedition. Oh my God. Have they lowered the bar so low?
Right.
When you put your feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk, or you walk out with a podium posing in front of your friends for Instagram,
Right.
that's sedition?
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me, okay?
Yeah.
And this shows, again, this entire mentality of this professional managerial class. You're right. They're not interested in justice in the pure sense of the word. They're there to vindicate their beliefs. Yes. Okay, their world view. That's what they're there for. That's what he thinks he's there for. And unfortunately, so many people, the DOJ, feel that. We saw that with the Russiagate hoax, okay? And there's no reason to believe it's probably just gotten worse.
Okay,
exactly. Biden administration.
About the Russiagate, exactly. I mean, they were convinced that there was collusion between the people that they hated, with the Trump, the people who worked for Trump, and Russia. The fact that there was no evidence to support this, that didn't matter. They just continued and continued and continued with this investigation. And when they couldn't come up with anything, they started manufacturing charges. Oh, lying to FBI agents, lying to Congress. Doesn't matter, just as long as we can prosecute and send them to prison. Again, total abuse of power. That is not what government is supposed to be about. That's tyranny. You just because you're using the powers of government to go to direct them against your political opponents.
Yeah, see, what happened was that they, under the Obama DOJ investigating the Trump campaign and his orbit there, it wasn't that they hated these people, not because they colluded, okay? They hated them personally and had to find a justification to go after them. And they came up with collusion, okay? Because it was everything that was the other way around. If they had found ample evidence that these people had betrayed their country, I could see a sense of, betrayal and hatred for these people, but it was the other way around, okay?
That's right, that's right. And another example, it came up this week, is what we're finding out about Hunter Biden. Apparently, he bought a gun, filled out your application form for the gun.
Hunter.
Yeah, and he claimed on that application form that he didn't have a drug problem. Whereas we know, not only did he have a drug problem, he was discharged from the military on account of his drug problem. So he lied. That's the stuff you go to prison for. No ands, ifs, and buts. You go to prison for that. But apparently, it doesn't really apply. So you have a Justice Department that is completely partisan. Utterly partisan. And that's a terrifying thing, because these people have real power and they have real means at their disposal to inflict suffering against their political opponents. So to be honest, it's just very scary when you look at what's going on there.
Think of the people that are in the NRA. People that believe in the Second Amendment, they all know these things. They would never imperil their constitutional right by lying like that. Okay, they take it seriously. See, it's very interesting is that they like to denigrate gun owners, but it's gun owners are the ones that are the safest with guns, understand how to use guns, actually know what kind of guns they are out there. Okay, and then you have someone with a really serious drug problem throwing the gun into a dumpster near a school. Hey, George, if you had done that or I'd done that, 20 years.
Absolutely. No question about it. And this is a pattern. We saw this obviously in the Hillary Clinton investigation. She just walked. All the things that were done for her, all of that they allowed people who were witnesses to act as her legal representatives, and all of these things. It's just an amazing.
And then everyone gets immunity before they're questioned.
And exactly, and that's another thing. They got immunity before they were president.
They were throwing that around like candy.
Right, exactly. Immunity deals with the immunity.
And her lawyer was actually also a witness.
That's right.
How does that work?
And in the meantime, when they stormed the home of Roger Stone, remember that the whole armed storming? The charges were lying to Congress, and and you have to send in the stormtroopers to get this elderly man out.
And how many former CIA, FBI, etc., lied through their teeth in front of Congress?
That's it. Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, my next thumbs down is something that I've been watching very carefully. Over on the 300th edition of the Gaggle, I've been very forceful that during the time of the pandemic and economic turndown, that if the government will not allow you to earn a living, then it's up to the government to compensate you in one form or another so you could get through this rough patch, okay? I stand with that. Now we have that $1.9 trillion boondoggle, which about 9% of it is for, see, I would have just gutted 91% of it and just, right. Seriously, if I'd had power, I would have said, no, we're not doing that, we're not doing that. We're gonna laser focus on people, right. Get them back on their feet. It's a lot cheaper, it's a lot more efficient, and we don't have to all this largesse that it's all are political favors for your donors and for your constituents. But what's happening now is that inflation is beginning to be stoked, and inflation is just not just a number. It's the cruelest, most painful tax on working people and the middle class. And that is very, very destructive. If you're a person of means, you find ways around it. Investments. One of my favorite ones. Some of the richest people in the world. What are they buying? Land, because you know what? God isn't making any more of it. Okay, always will have value. Okay, but working people have. There's not. That's way beyond their imagination. So I'm really worried about this, because not only did so many lives were destroyed during the economic turndown as a result of the pandemic, but people could have a hard time getting back on their feet. Gasoline prices, that is one of the most painful thing on working people, particularly if you have to drive a long way to go to work. I mean, it's a huge tax on you. So I really wish, there's a whole debate about deficit hawkery and all that. I don't like how it's politicized and talking points, but you can't keep printing money.
No, I think that's right. It seems these days as if all of the laws of economics have been abolished. It's always known, well, if you keep printing money, you are downgrading the value of money. I mean, it's, if you have more of something, it loses its value. And that's always been the case. But apparently, people are convinced that none of that applies, because as long as you have your own currency, you can just print money ad infinitum, and then you just say, hey, I owe the money to myself, and there's no problem. And I think modern monetary theory, which I guess is this sort of the ideology underlying this, I can't say I entirely understand it, but that seems to be the ideology here. It just says, oh, you don't have to worry. But I don't believe it. I don't believe it because, otherwise people would have thought of this earlier. So I kind of agree with you. I think sooner or later, the bills are going to come due. You can't just simply, Biden next week is going to propose another $3 trillion on the kind of his green new energy infrastructure and whatever. And again, where's the money coming from? You still have an economic downturn. So we'll just print some more.
The way I look at it is, we've talked about this ever since the election and the inauguration of the new Congress and the president, is that these people are in a hurry. They know they have a window. It's very, very narrow, and they just want to get as much done. I mean, let someone else pick up the tab later. Okay, that's their mentality. Politics is now. Politics is in the present. Okay, and they're not looking to the future. But I can tell you that the rest of the world doesn't go down that path, okay?
No, I think because the rest of the world still thinks there has to be something called inflation. I mean, it just doesn't mean. And I think I agree with you. I think inflation will come, and I think it could well come together with stagnation. So we could be back in that happy time of the 1970s of stagflation. So we've got the worst of all worlds. So
yeah, but see, doing all this now is that it's I've said this many, many times in the Gaggle, is I'm so sick and tired of saying, well, my predecessor did this. No, you're in office. You own this. This is you, okay? So, they just, and, if something did good happen in the last administration, just say, be honest about it. Okay. Just be honest about it. Yeah. Minority unemployment went down to historic lows. That's fantastic. Okay. Okay. So, I mean,
I think that's right.
So I mean, this blame game thing when you're playing around with something so very important. Let me repeat it: inflation is the most cruel tax on working people out there. It's
right.
Horrific.
I agree. All right, my next thumbs down is this new woke military. The people at the top of the Pentagon have bought into the woke culture and seem to be convinced that all of the men and the women, who are in the military service, or a good chunk of them, is really the enemy within. They are people who harbor racist views, sexist views, homophobic views, and they need to be rooted out, or there has to be re-education for these people, because many of them, maybe most of them, I don't know, could be Trump supporters. And therefore, that is absolutely reprehensible. And as evidence, they suggest, look at the number of vets who took part in the events of January the 6th. Well, if they're going to look into the question of why so many vets took part in the events of January the 6th, they should think about maybe these vets are disillusioned about these wars that they fought in Iraq, Afghanistan, even before that they saw their comrades dying for stupid, pointless wars that achieved nothing for the United States, nothing for the people they were supposed to help. And then they come back to an America in which there are no jobs for them and they, nothing to look forward to. Maybe that's why these vets took part on January the 6th, not because they are racist or sexist or homophobic. But no, that they would never think of that. So so here we have this woke military, purging people who actually had served their country.
Yeah, I mean, even look at the president himself. His son Beau died, and some people believe that he was exposed to these chemical burns, or I don't know what these pits where they burn stuff, and it probably was could cause cancer and things like that. I'm trying to be sympathetic to the president of the United States right now, okay? But these veterans know that these wars were senseless. Many were killed. Many came home without limbs, and many came home with broken minds, okay? And what do they get for it? Not much, okay? Not much at all. And we know that if we look at 2016, one of the things that helped tip victory for Trump is that active and retired military were on his side, because he said no more of these wars. It was important in congressional districts that made a difference. And if you look at public opinion now, the majority of veterans are absolutely against these wars. Maybe they were sending a message, okay? I tend to believe that, okay?
Right, exactly.
Because these people, they were willing to die for their country. How many people in Congress avoided the draft, okay? Okay, but these guys went.
Yeah. No,
because they believe they're leaders, and they come home and they say, tell their friends and family, this is just nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, everything that we know about Iraq, I mean, that's all been swept under the rug, as if somehow, that's always George W. Bush and Cheney. But this whole thing, that whole nonsense that the country went through, telling, we have weapons of mass destruction, we have to invade. And then it turns out it was a complete and utter nonsense, and that they knew it was nonsense. They knew beforehand there was no evidence he had any weapons of mass destruction. So they sent, all these people into Iraq. I don't know, about 5,000 Americans were killed. God knows how many were wounded. They lost their limbs, and as you say, they were mentally damaged as a result. We know from the number of suicides of vets every day, it's horrific numbers. It's like these vets took part on January the 6th.
Something like 15 to 20 a day, George.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, just because you kind of reminded me of something. Anyone that wants to talk about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, if there were, agreeing with you, if there had been weapons of mass destruction, they never would have invaded the country.
Quite so. No, they're very, very good.
Logic dictates.
Logic, yeah, quite so. Which is why they don't invade North Korea. That's it. You know, if North Korea didn't have weapons of mass destruction, it would have been invaded by the United States a long time ago.
Right, right. Logic, it's simple. Exactly. And usually, using logic, the simplest answer is usually the right answer.
Absolutely.
And they don't let them come and say, well, it's complicated. No, it's wrong. It's simple. It's wrong. It's not complicated.
Absolutely.
That's it for me.
What I have? Yeah, I have another thumbs down, which is the Dominion voting systems. Now, Dominion voting systems has been liberally showering lawsuits against people. They filed the lawsuits against Rudy Giuliani. They filed a lawsuit against the attorney whose name escapes me. You know, she represented Michael Flynn.
Sidney Powell.
Sidney Powell, exactly. And then against that Michael Lindell, the My Pillow guy. Now they're filing a lawsuit against News Corp. Now there's something really kind of creepy about somebody just filing these lawsuits in this haphazard fashion. Because if you've suffered some damage, you just show what the damage that you suffered. Hard to see what damage it has suffered, because basically the people like Sidney Powell and Michael Lindell, they were on the losing side. They lost. So Dominion, everybody else, they won out. So what damage to its reputation has it suffered? None. So what they're really trying to do is use litigation as a way of intimidating political opponents, intimidating the media. Don't you dare bring up anything about the election, because powerful corporations might come along and sue you for $1.5 billion. I mean, that's kind of what they're suing News Corp. I think they're suing Giuliani also for about $1 billion. So that's, again, the thumbs down. This is really quite disgusting to have these corporations just using the courts in this way, just essentially to silence their opponent when they have clearly not suffered any damage to their reputations.
Yeah, it's like they're poor winners. Right. They don't know how to win. Okay. Yeah, and plus this is part of this purging of the landscape. Okay. For me, you win and you're gratified with it, but they win and they want to punish, okay, and they want to annihilate. And
kind of what the Biden DOJ is doing as well, annihilate. Yeah,
it's pathological. It's pathological. I mean, not only did you lose, we're going to annihilate you. Right. That's a thing. And you know what? Once people are targeted as the enemy, it's very, very difficult to reconcile again, okay? And that's a very unhealthy body politic. And it's coming from one direction, okay? Only one direction, and it's nonstop.
Yeah, absolutely right. All right, well, I'm done, you're done, and I think your dog probably wants to go for a walk. So.
That's right.
All right, thank you, Peter. That was the thumbs ups and thumbs downs for the
300 podcasts.
Exactly, our 300th podcast. So big occasion. So look us up on Rumble. We're now on Rumble. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.